what's going on? My name is Sarah Miller. I'm just going to respond to that email that I was reading about laying up fiberglass for a boat, which is a really exciting project. I have glassed hundreds of boats all over the country at different marinas over the course of 10 and 12 years, mostly repairs on sailboats and powerboats. Not really worked on houseboats, so I'm curious in what ways they might be different. I got the email. A couple things I wanted to address. One, you didn't mention polyester resin. Polyester resin is by far the most common boatyard resin. It is the standard boatyard resin. Epoxy is 10 times stronger, which is great. Other things don't adhere to it very well. It's more expensive. You don't necessarily want epoxy boat. Nobody does that. It's more expensive, but more primarily it doesn't bend. Like, you know when you have pants that have no give in them, like, and you go to sit down, it's like tight in the ass. You need give when it comes to sailboats, powerboats, and I'm gonna guess houseboats too. Let's talk about it. There are pitfalls to epoxy resin in ways that there are not to polyester resin, and one of the main concerns that was addressed in the email was about how the other two epoxies don't adhere to wood fiber. That's not true, like, at all. I mean, I guess you could say specifically, is there like any chemical bond? There's no chemical bond. But epoxy, the reason your polyester resin is not going to cure is, one, it got drops of water in it, which could be because, like you're saying, if the wood was not yet dry. If you just use really cheap plywood, it's like rough cut, usually dry, that's worked hundreds of times, is totally fine. Polyester resin on plywood is a great way to build a boat. Also, if it gets any rain on it, like any drops of rain, you're in the middle of a glass project and like 2 raindrops fall, those 2 specific areas will not cure. Also, if you have a wax needs to be added to the resin to make it cure. So if you guys were using boatyard resin that's unwaxed and you didn't add the wax and it was your top layer and you're like, why does that yield a soft finish? Well, then that's why. So there's numerous things that I just kind of saw in the email and was like, hey, let's talk about this. What is the plan? I'm just one person. I only know what I know. And I'm totally willing to help you dig in a little bit and find out more. Yeah, so, I mean, I can only speak for the 5 or 6 boatyards that I've worked in and the hundreds of boats I've worked on, but that's not all of them. The epoxy vinyl ester is a much less used product. It can be definitely, when people speak about it, they'll be like, oh yeah, it's more versatile, but chances are it's not really what you're looking for. Unless you know just what you're doing. I would trust you to use the vinyl ester epoxy if you were like, I've been making glass boats for years and I want to up the stakes and go with this other stuff and I know in what ways it's going to work. That's when I would advise doing it, if you have like a specialty. Other than that, it's usually a special purpose. There's specific points on the boat that you might want epoxy, and you might want like the vinyl ester epoxy, but for the most part, polyester is the way to go. A 5-gallon bucket of the polyester resin is about $500. About 100 yards of the woven roving is about $1,000 for 100 yards. And for the mat, that thin chop, that stuff we call chop, that's about $500 for 80 square yards of that. So anyways, give me a call if you'd like to talk about any of this stuff. I love it. I haven't laid up a whole bunch of boats from scratch, but the first 3 that I did are fully operational. They are used all the time at community boating and made from plywood, polyester resin, and also I'm a gel coat, expert gel coat color matcher. I've matched hundreds of whites at boatyards in California and the East Coast. So give me a call if you need to know anything. I only know what I know, so I'm not like, I know everything. I'm just like, I just know what I do know pretty well, because I'm super interested. Anytime I had a question over the years, I just call the factory and I drill them for answers and go, okay, what's the difference here? What's the difference there? What are we talking about this? And what's the price differentiation? And what do people usually do? And then I go to boat yards and I'll press the people that work there and go, like, what about this? What about that? So I'm just a little nerdy and I like to dig in and find out what's going on. So I think that's it for now. I think that's it. Okay, I gotta go to the bank. Okay, bye.